We're going to dig into the sixth plague tonight, the plague of boils, which is Exodus 9th chapter, starting at the 8th verse. But before we do that, let us open up in prayer. Dear gracious and Heavenly Father, we thank you for another opportunity, Lord, to be amongst the upright. Another opportunity to get right what we got wrong yesterday. Just another opportunity to serve you in spirit and in truth, Lord. And Lord, if we have done anything throughout this day that will sin against you by thought, word, or deed, Lord, we're asking you for your forgiveness right now, Lord. Lord, we're asking you right now to come into this place right now, whether we are in the sanctuary, on the various streaming channels, or on the conference line, Lord. Just come in and have your way tonight, Lord. Open us up to receive what you have for us tonight, Lord. Speak to us and through us. This we ask your Son, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Trying to see how we're going to start this tonight. Let's go ahead and read it. And I got some other stuff I wanted to kind of mention, but we'll see if it segues into what we're talking about tonight. I kind of wanted to bring up something I mentioned on the prayer line on Monday. But let's go ahead and read Exodus 9, verses 8 through, I think it is 8 through 12. Yeah. In the English Standard Version, it says, "And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, take handful of soot from the kiln, and let Moses throw them in the air, in the sight of Pharaoh. It shall become fine dust over all the land of Egypt and become boils, breaking out in sores on men and beasts throughout all the land of Egypt." So they took soot from the kiln and stood before Pharaoh, and Moses threw it in the air, and it became boils, breaking out in sores on man and beast. And the magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils, for the boils came upon the magicians and upon all for the boils came upon the magicians and upon all the Egyptians. But the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he did not listen to them, as the Lord had spoken to Moses. A couple of things, and I'm going to tie it in to probably that last verse tonight. But the question I still have, and I asked Monday on the prayer line, what is it we have to do to come together? What is it we have to do to come together? Black folks are killing black folks. White folks are killing black folks. And it seems like us as black folks can't stop killing and talking about one another to realize we're not the enemy. So I don't know what it is we have to do. And I talked about the incident that happened at work too. And funny, I walked to the truck to get my soul out of the truck. And first thing I thought about was Jesus walking into the temple and seeing people using the church as a place of profit, using the church as a convenience store, using the church as a flea market, using the church as a 7-Eleven. And he got upset and turned over everything. Everything that he had preached, everything that he had talked about, everything that he was trying to get people to realize, he saw they wasn't paying attention. At that particular time, the only way he felt like he could get their attention is turning stuff over. I pray that we don't have to get our attention. He's trying to get our attention like that. But it seems like the only way we're going to start to realize that we need to make a change in our own life and our own communities till we look up and we see ourselves on a plantation picking cotton again. When we show up to work and we're not in charge anymore. It's sad, but it seems like that's the only way we're going to realize that we need to come back together. And I pray that's not the case. I pray that's not the case, but also as a pastor, as a religious leader, I pray and ask the Lord to guide me in what we need to do or what I need to do to help my flock figure out what they got to do in this fight. So continue to pray for Pastor because the incident yesterday is still bothering me. I'm at Monday, and for those of you that don't know about it, someone at work brought up the shooting in Buffalo and made a comment that the shooting was because of Biden administration because it never happened up under Trump.
Did he forget? Was it Charleston?
Yeah. Well, what I did was I didn't tell y'all the whole story. I bit my tongue. Sister Britt, I bit it off. Because normally I'm ready for that fight. I couldn't say nothing. It was just the Holy Spirit not allowing me to say that. So I came, left from the area they were at. Barn, this is not one of my employees that works directly for me that said it, but I walked back to the area that they were in. And I remember I told y'all, if you ever bring up anything political in this realm again and it offends anybody, you'll never work with the city of Tallahassee again. But what I did tell y'all was, he said, well, all I'm talking about, all I'm doing is just stating the truth. I ain't trying to offend nobody, it's just the truth. It never happened up under Trump. So I wrote on a piece of paper and said, I just wrote resignation on a piece of paper. I said, sign this. What am I going to sign that for? I said, because I told you, if you don't have facts to back some up, and it's an opinion, and your opinion affects anybody, that goes against policy. And me as a manager, I have to do something about that. I said, I know your manager's not here, but this is what we're going to do. Sign this. What am I signing this for? I said, because you said it was a fact that nothing happened like this under Trump. So what you're going to do is sign this, and we're going to go do the research. And if nothing like this happened up under Trump, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But if something like this happened up under Trump, it's your resignation. And I'm going to fill in the rest of it because I already got your signature. Oh, I ain't mean it like that. I said, so you don't want your job no more? No. I said, well, don't say it no more. And I said, you realize your supervisor has my back. Then I think it dawned on him because he realized who his supervisor was. Somebody that's very close to me.
Your dad.
Right? So we got to see, we got to learn how to come together, right? But what that taught me is we got to learn sometimes how to fight the way they fight. We got to learn how to fight the way they fight. And unfortunately, we can't do that because we don't have enough of us in charge. We don't have enough of us in places that can make them political decisions. And the reason why we don't have enough of us in the places to make them political decisions, enough of us in power for that wealth, is because we still have that crab in the bucket mentality. We'll rather pull each other down and go answer to the white man than to lift each other up and answer to one of our own. And that's a sad case. I don't know what we have to do. I don't know what we need to do, but I know through prayer, the Lord will reveal it to us. But let us, anything comments on that before we kind of dig into the lesson tonight? And I'm going to tie something else in with that. That's why I brought it up first. because I'm going to tie it into the last part tonight. So we're at the sixth plague. Remember earlier when we talked about the plagues are in three. The first two, number 1 and 2, the Lord gave a warning. The third one he did. Fourth and fifth, he gave a warning. The sixth one, he had. So now we see, he tells Moses, said to Moses to go, then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, take a handful of soot from the clean, just from the fireplace. Soot, as we know, just ashes, dust, smut, and throw it in the air in the sight of Pharaoh. So watch this. If we look, this will bring some back to our attention. When we look at the first plague itself, the Lord directed Aaron to perform the first one. The first three plagues itself, Moses or Aaron had something to do with it. The fourth and fifth plague, if we remember, the Lord did it himself when he did the flies, the Lord sent the flies. This fifth plague with the what was the fifth plague? With the livestock, he performed that himself. Now he has Moses now do it again, because what I believe, and when we look at this, the Lord uses a lot of different approaches to get our attention. He used a lot of different ways to get our attention. When Pharaoh first asked, who is this God? And why don't I know him? All right. He has been showing Pharaoh who he is. He has attacked the gods of the Egyptians in these plagues. He has told Moses that you will be a god to Pharaoh. Not only that, but Aaron will be your prophet. It got to the point where, remember, Pharaoh has went to Moses and asked Moses to intercede on not the people's behalf, but his behalf. And every time we see it, Pharaoh's heart was hardened. Or the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart. We got to understand that the Lord will use other people to get our attention. Then when that doesn't work, he will go ahead and do stuff to get our attention. And if you notice the things that the Lord has done so far, the lies that came in, it was a disruption. But the last plague that he did, it started to affect physically. It started to kill, and we see, watch this, how the Lord gets our attention. He killed something that they can use. All right. The next time he got their attention, he killed something they loved. Because the last plague when he killed also, he killed the firstborn. So if we see the progression of the Lord trying to get Pharaoh's attention, trying to allow Pharaoh the time to make a wise, informed decision. And it makes me wonder, just me and my own personal walk of life, my own personal relationship with the Lord. Lord, you got my attention just through this Exodus experience. And I wonder how many times back that he was trying to get my attention and gave me warnings before I took heed to it. Before I took heed. But not only that, as a nation, how many times is he giving us warning, and when are we going to take heed as a nation? Because Charleston was a warning that racism still exists. Buffalo is a warning that racism still exists. But even in Charleston, yes, we came together, we marched, we fussed, We wanted to fight. We wanted to burn stuff up. But after they buried the Charleston Nine, after the last march was over, after them being grave for 8-9 months, we went back to hate one another. We could go back all the way back to Rodney King. We burnt down everything, and we gonna overcome. We're gonna come together. We come together for mess. But then we stay together. No. What's gonna happen? Because I understand it, and when I say this, I want to make this clear. It happens. Because it happened there. But we still can't come together here. What happens when it's at the Walmart in Mariana? What happens when it's at the new store in Greenwood? What happens when it's at the Dollar General right up the road? He's giving us warnings to come together. But that's too far off. That ain't gonna never happen in our neighborhood. What happens when an officer in Jackson County kills a young black male, young black female? What happens? Sad thing about it, we just have a sheriff election and we still don't know who really the sheriff is. We've heard about it. We know somebody that knows somebody that knows him. When are we going to come together? When are we going to come together? Because the Lord gives us signs. So when are we going to come together to make sure we do everything we can? I ain't going to say we can never prevent it, but everything we can in our power to prevent it. I saw something of a boxer, I think, or maybe it was a football player. And I'm going to get the quote wrong, but he said, pray to God as it's your last. Work as you can make the difference. So we're praying that knowing that God can do it, but we're working to make it just, and I ain't going to say just in case he can't do it, we're working like it's our responsibility to do it. Mm-hmm. We know God has the last say, right? We know that the Lord, no matter what we do, if he sees fit to let us into heaven, he's going to let us into heaven. But we got to do all the work we can to make sure we do everything we can to get into heaven. We have to make sure we do everything we can. And so we see God giving Pharaoh a plethora of chances through different avenues to soften his heart or to change his mind. So he tells Moses right now to throw up soot, throw up stuff that's been burned, throw up stuff that is probably irrelevant to anybody. Right? Just throw it up. And think about this. How many times you've been outside or you're driving, especially in the before the harvest when the crop when they're out there harrowing the fields and all that, and the wind is blowing, and you come out, all you see is dust. And the first thing you think about most times, I just washed my car. That's the first thing we think about. I just washed my car, and here it goes and blow all this dust on my car. That's what happens. But so imagine that dust turns into boils. Imagine something that seems so harmless turns into something so painful. How many times have the wind been blowing or dust been blowing and you got dust or sand in your eyes? And that's one of the things, no matter what you do, you feel like you can't get it out. You can bet your eyes all you want. You can try to get water and rinse clean, but it just seems like It's there and you can't get it out. The Lord does stuff to get our attention. But watch this. He done got to the point now that every other plague has been something that was a bit of convenience to the humans. Inconvenience to us. But now it's physical pain to us. How many times we have did something or been somewhere that's been an inconvenience to us? Been an inconvenience. And a lot of the times, watch this, and I'm guilty of this. I'm still guilty of it because I still ain't got no medicine. Refuse don't tell us well. But because it's an inconvenience to go by that way, it's inconvenience. Mm-hmm. It's inconvenience. But lo and behold, if I don't do it, it's going to end up in a pain with my gout flare up because I ain't had no gout medicine. And Sister Britta invited me over for some oysters. And they're going to flare up, I know. But we've all been in places that we felt like it's been an inconvenience to us. But really, if we pay attention, it's something that we should sit through that because it is a benefit to us. And watch this. A lot of us don't go to commission meetings. Would not go to the commission meeting because it's an inconvenience to us. A lot of us didn't go to parent PTO meetings when our kids were growing because it was an inconvenience to us. And then when they bring a report card home, we're mad because they telling us they've been doing the work. But guess what? We really don't care if they've been doing it because if they said it, then we know they hadn't been doing it. But I don't want to do their work. So if they tell me they did it, okay. Because I don't want it to be an inconvenience to me. I think one of our problems is today in society, we don't want to be inconvenienced by the youth. We don't want to be inconvenienced by other people. So we don't help people the way the community helped us when we were growing up. We won't slide and pick up the neighborhood kids and bring them to church. For one, because we don't want to go. For two, I barely wake up on time to get there. And three, I don't want to deal with it. And that might be in a different order, but that's right. It might be a different order, but I sat back and listen to the stories that y'all. I ain't gonna say the stories, but when y'all go down memory lane. And one thing I heard about your mom, Sister Diane, she would pick up the kids. When it was time for Bible Discovery Hour, she'd have them in the car, going one place or the other. I've heard that about many people in the church. That probably brought y'all to church. Had y'all sitting right there in the pews when mom or dad or somebody was doing other stuff or working and stuff like that. And look where we're at today. Because of them bringing us. They didn't care about being inconvenienced because they knew that momentary affliction, that momentary pain that they had to endure dealing with us as bad kids will benefit us in the long run. But not only us, it was helping make the community strong. But we've got to the point we don't even go next door. Let me just rephrase that. We don't even go to the next bedroom. Knock on the door and tell our children to come. Because we don't want to be inconvenienced. Because if I get them up, then they're going to stop by the store. They're going to want to go somewhere to eat, bro, okay? And I just want to go back home. Some of us won't even call our kids or call to the house to see if anything needs to be brought to the house because we don't want to be inconvenienced. Because if I call, they're going to ask me to bring something. And I don't want to stop. We don't want to be inconvenienced. So sometimes, because we don't want to be inconvenienced, the Lord gets our attention and says, okay, I tried. I tried to get your attention. I tried to allow you the opportunity to get right. But since you ignored all of that, because it wasn't your problem, you had other ways around it. Now what happens when something happens to you? What happens when the pain hits you? What happens when it affects not only you, your whole household? What happens? What happens? And watch this. And a lot of it is happening not because of the Egyptians' disobedience. It's happening because who they chose as their leaders' disobedience. Because who they chose as their leader. So what happens? And I'm going to bring it close. I ain't going to say president. I ain't going to say governor or nothing like that, right? What happens when the commissioner that you chose for the district that you stay in causes you personal pain? Causes your family personal pain because you ignored all the election signs. You ignored all the stuff all the warning signs about this person. So now it has affected your own family. See, it's different when we're doing something wrong and the Lord punishes us. Because we know exactly what we did, no matter how much we try to deny. No matter how much we try to think of, we know exactly what we did. Right? That's just like when we get in trouble with mom and dad or something, we know exactly what we did. And we try to play like we did. In some cases, when mom and dad call you, trying to go back in your mind to figure out what all you did. What you did? Are you trying to figure out in your mind which incident you're talking about? But it's different when you get for the action of others. When you get punished for the action of others, and this time you can't cut a plea deal. So he sent boils at this time, and not only did it affect the animals, it affected each and every person. It impacted everybody. And when we look at this, the boils that they're talking about, some said it was like an anthrax. But he didn't talk about heavy breathing. When you get anthrax, it's hard to breathe as well. But anthrax put real bad sores on your hand and on your skin. But all of us have had that point to where we've had that blister from getting burnt. And it kind of boils up. Or we've had that blister from whatever it was and how painful that was. So imagine that all over your body. The boils all over your body and in pain. And watch this, it was so bad that it wasn't just any type of boils. It was so bad that in Deuteronomy, when the Lord was talking, when he gave Moses the law to give to the people, Moses said, the Lord will strike you with the boils of Egypt. And this Deuteronomy 28:7. The Lord will strike you with the boils of Egypt and with the tumors and scabs and itch of which you cannot be healed. So it was so severe that the Lord went back and reminded the Hebrews that if you don't do what I said that I'm asking you to do, I'm going to punish you not with the Red Sea, closing of the Red Sea, right? I'm going to punish you with the same boils that the Egyptians was punished with. What some people wanted to say, I was doing some reading while I was back in the office, that the Hebrews must have had this too. Because you're two plagues, he said, I was going to make a separation between my folks and you, Pharaoh. But remember, he said he would not do this to his people again. But this plague didn't mention he saved the Hebrews. He said it just fell out over the livestock and the people. But this shows us, when you go to Deuteronomy, that he didn't touch his people. Have you ever seen something that happened to somebody and you say, I don't want that to ever happen to me? I tell people right now, you ask anybody that has gout, they don't want gout on their worst enemy. It's one of them things that's so painful. And you hear people say, I never had it, but I heard how painful it is. Mm-hmm. The Hebrews didn't see it. I mean, they saw it and witnessed it. And the Lord, when he was giving the law, that if you don't follow my rules, I will strike you with the boils of the Egyptians. And guess what? They still didn't listen. Still didn't listen. I say that to say this. You always hear me say it. We know the rest of the story. We know the rest of the story. But we still have a little Hebrew in us. Because we know the rest of the story. We still refuse to listen sometimes. We still refuse to listen. Still refuse. But watch this. Not only did the Lord strike them with boils, breaking out in sores on man and beast throughout all the land of Egypt. All right. And I'm getting ahead of myself, but Moses threw it up. Moses followed. Let's get on Moses for a minute because of verse 10. So they took soot from the king line and stood before Pharaoh, and Moses threw it in the air and it became boils, breaking out sores on man. The Lord didn't give him warning. He told him what to do. And Moses followed it to the T. He followed that. All right. Reason why, this is just me throwing this out there, right? Reason why the Lord ain't made our enemies our footstools. The reason why he ain't prepared a table in the presence of our enemies, because we can't follow his directions. We can't follow his directions. He wants to make our enemies our footstool. He wants to prepare a table for us in the presence of our enemies. But he can't prepare the table because we didn't follow the directions on how to build a table. He wants to make our enemies our footstool, but guess what? He can't because we ain't built the footstool. Because we can't follow the directions that the Lord has. We can't follow the directions. And watch this. When I want to bring it to us this way. Love thy neighbor as I love thyself. Put no other gods before me. Let's deal with putting other gods before me first. All right? Simple instruction. If you don't put no other gods before me, I'll make your enemies your footstool. If you put no other gods before me, I'll prepare a table in the presence of your enemies. If you put no other gods before me, I will keep you safe. If you put no other gods before me, I'll be your shelter in the time of storm. I'll be your doctor in the court and in the sick room. But the problem is, we put money before him. Simple direction. Don't put no gods before him. We put money before him. We relationships before him. And when I say this, I want to make a clarification when I say this. We've put work before him. And now I'm not talking about you having a job. And I'm going to use two people, if I may. Brother Rivers, Sister Sim, right? When they have to go do work for their job or whatever, they all rail and say, Rail, this is the situation, right? Because they're trying to provide for their family. And the Lord, they've been praying. This is just me. Y'all ain't got to answer this. This is just my 2 cents on this. They've been praying to the Lord, Lord, I need an increase. Lord, I got this going on. And the Lord provides for them. But faith without works is dead. They had to put in some work. It just so happened the work has been on a Sunday. But guess what else the Lord has did? The Lord has given us opportunity to call in. The Lord has given us an opportunity to listen in. So they try to listen in. They try to call in when it's permitted. When I talk about work, I'm talking about those that just use work as an excuse not to come. Those use work as an excuse not to help. Because sometimes we work, and a matter of fact, all of us have to work because if y'all don't work, Real can't keep the lights on in church. Right? We'll just be sitting here looking at each other. Right? You're right. So we have to work. So I'm not talking about those that are trying their best to live day by day, live right by the Lord, and do right by the Lord, and work and provide for their family, and know if they put in the work, the Lord will do the rest. Amen. I'm talking about those that don't care about the Lord and refuse to come to do stuff and use work as a crutch for them not to do it. Put no other God before me. I'm talking about the ones that, you know, when we look at grandma and granddad, grandma, great-grandma, mom and dad, they're dinner, Sunday dinner on Saturday. So they didn't care about how long they were in church. Because all they knew, it was already on the stove. So all they had to do is just warm it up and it'd be fine. But you got some people that say, I had to cook Sunday dinner so I can come to church. All you can do is throw something in the microwave. But anyway, that ain't for me to say. Right? I'm sorry, y'all. You put no other gods before. Right? That's all I asked you to do. And you couldn't do that simple task. So how am I going to bless you? Right? How am I going to bless you? Love thy neighbor as you love thyself. And this is something I struggled with for the longest. But I had a revelation because I read what it actually said. And Sister Linda being a witness, and I've told y'all before, you don't want everybody to love you the way they love themselves. Right? But some people don't love themselves. Right? Say that. Some people don't love themselves. So in my twisted mind, I'm like, I love their neighbors that love themselves. Well, Lord, I don't want everybody to love me because they don't love themselves. But reread what I just told you. Love thy neighbor as I love thyself. I know, Lord, that they love themselves, so why? I can't, read it again. I read it again. He said, do you then, sometimes we have a conversation with the Lord realized he just got to break it down, see sometimes. Nut. What does that part say? Do you love yourself? Yes, I love myself. Well, you love somebody else like you love yourself. Light bulb went on. I can't be responsible for how somebody else feel about me. I can't be responsible if somebody else don't love themselves. That's why he said, love thy neighbor as you love yourself. Mm-hmm. We love ourselves. How many times have we went to a store, saw something, and pictured us in it? Right? How many times we went to, don't you go by, so that ain't, don't you go by tomorrow and say, well, Ray, I'm talking about it.
and then just tell yourself how good you are, and you just deserve it. You've been so good. you just earned this.
Can I add something to it? Ooh, the Lord knows I work hard.
Yeah.
He know I. Because we love ourselves. And we want to see ourselves in the best. Right? When the last time you heard somebody say, oh, you know what, I think my neighbor look good in this? Right? Oh, you know what? I think my enemy deserves his coat first. I mean, let's just be right. Because the word says, I'm taking it literally. Now, the word says, love that neighbor as I love thyself. And we've always said, oh, I'll look good in this. Oh, I want that. Right? But when was the last time we saw anything over 50 cents? I'm going to rephrase that. Anything over a penny. And said, my enemy will look good in that.
We can't get that.
And I ain't talking about the casket. I ain't talking about the grave. Let's clarify. I know how those folk things in there because that's the first thing God said. Yeah, I have said that. It'll look good. Oh, right. I'm a bit honest. I've never. But I'm supposed to love that enemy. I mean, love my neighbor as I love myself. And the enemy is my neighbor at that time. Right? No matter who it is, that's my neighbor. But see, then we get deep into the word since we're being literal real. It said my neighbor. I like both of my neighbors. I get along with both of my neighbors. I got a good community. I get along with all my neighbors. I get along with them so much I don't know them, they don't know me, I don't bother them, they don't bother me. Right? But the neighbor in this instance is anybody that we come in contact with. Right? Anybody that we are beside. But we can't follow that simple instruction. So how can he help us? Moses followed the instruction. Now we've been walking through Exodus and we realized now that Moses didn't always follow instruction. Moses, and we're going to see later on, if we get to that point, he still didn't follow instructions a little bit later on. But he had got to the point where he knew that he needed to follow instructions. He might have not liked it a lot of the time, but he still did what the Lord told him to do. A lot of us are in situations that he's telling us to throw up smut. And we're saying, Lord, I can't get my hands dirty. That's dirt. Lord, you see what I got on today? I just bought this. You know dirt don't, you know ashes don't come out of white? Or better yet, I can't be around all that smoke, get in my car. I can't stand that smoke smell. But let it be a barbecue. We'll be around smoke all day. One of the balls. You know. Let some money, $1 million be in that suit. We'll dive in head first and fight over it. But Lord, I can't. And the Lord is saying, if you just do what I do, if you just make that momentary sacrifice for that momentary affliction, I will do way beyond that you can ask for. I could open up the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing that you don't have room to receive, but you're not even obeying or following. I ain't going to even say obeying. You're not even following two simple instructions. Moses followed what the Lord had him to do. And if we notice, watch this. Going back to some other words. Remember everything else, the first three, and I can go back and read them if we need. The Lord instructed Moses to tell Aaron to touch the Nile. Instructed Aaron to do the other stuff. Then, when we mentioned the other 2, 4, and 5, the Lord did it. Now, Moses is doing it. So if we back a minute, Pharaoh has seen the servant do it. Pharaoh has seen the God that he doesn't believe in do it. Now he's seeing the God that the Lord has appointed for him do it. The Lord has a way of getting our attention. The Lord has a way of getting our attention. But not only that, to me, when I look at this, he's showing Moses, just because I told you that you are a God to Pharaoh, and you are, and Aaron is your servant, doesn't exempt you from having to do work. Just because you're my spokesperson, just because you are the one that I've chosen, don't mean you ain't gonna be able to get your hands dirty. Doesn't mean you ain't gonna do no work. A lot of us think at particular times, and this is just me, because of who we are, because of the title we hold, we don't supposed to get dirty. We don't supposed to get dirty. He just showed Moses right here, and this just made the Holy Spirit just reveal that to me. That the other stuff, Moses directed. But time it was something that was dirty that had to be done, he didn't ask Aaron. He told Moses to do it. Because sometimes, as leaders, we have to be willing to get dirty. Yep. Sometimes, as leaders, the Lord puts us in a position to see how humble we are. And I don't think when we look at it, that's something I've glanced over time and time again, and probably something Moses didn't even think about, because Moses was just focused on the work that the Lord had for him. Sometimes we got to be willing to get dirty. I've been fussed by Sister McKay, Sister Gibson, Sister Sims, about everybody. They'll come in and I got a vacuum or something, vacuum and I clean up. Red, give me that. You ain't got to do that. I know. That's what it needs to be done. That's what we here for, real. I know, but I just wanted to make your job a little easier. Just because that's what you hear, to do that don't mean to do it all the time. Something I started doing, me and Sister Linda, and I think we got to get back into it because I can't remember if we did it the last time. Yeah, we did. When we go to hotels, before we leave out, we'll get everything and kind of fold the sheets up for them, put them in one pile and all of that, the towels and all of that, and put it right there because if I've made their job a little easier, I ain't got to do it because that's what they get paid to do. But if I've made their day easier, I'm going to do it. When we go to restaurants, a lot of times we'll take our plates and put them all up right there and put all that in before we leave. Because if it just keeps them from having to spend extra 30 seconds, that's an extra 30 seconds that they could do something else. Because not only am I a leader, I got to be willing to serve too. So that's just that one. When I look at that, he told Moses to go to the fireplace. He told Moses to get the ashes. He told Moses to throw them up. To throw them up. And Moses did it. And when he did it, and it can't feel the air, the boils came. But remember, we had them pested magicians since the third plague. We hadn't heard from them. Lo and behold, they show up for one last time. Because Because this is the last time we hear about him in the plague. If I'm not mistaken. This is the last time, and I have to go back and read the others. This is the last time we hear about him when it comes to the plagues. It says, and the magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils, for the boils came upon the magicians and upon all the Egyptians. Now, the magicians were the closest thing to gods in the people's sight. And remember, every time something happened, Pharaoh called called the magicians to perform the same, couldn't but perform the same. When the Nile turned to blood, he called the magicians. And what did they do? They got their little water, then purified, but turned it to blood. Same thing they had. That's just like us going to the store to get a purifier to purify water. And time we put the purifier on, it comes out more dirtier than the water was before. When we looked at the remember when it got to the plague of frogs, that's when I know the gnats. That's when they couldn't duplicate what happened. Or was it the frogs? Bad when your mind go blank sometimes, though. They were there for the livestock. We didn't hear from them in the livestock. We hear from them in, I can't believe. Yeah, it was the gnats. It was the gnats. Because the fourth and fifth plague, we didn't hear from them. When it got to the third plague, that's when they said the magicians tried their secret gods to produce gnats. They could not. So there were gnats on man and beast, and the magicians said to Pharaoh, "This is the finger of God." So they got to the point that they couldn't even produce what the Lord was doing, and they pointed out that this is God's doing. But guess what? They still didn't repent. It still didn't make them change from their wicked ways. So now, because in Pharaoh's eyesight, they are still like close to gods. Now the magicians even have boils on them. The magicians even have boils, and it's to the point, watch this, Pharaoh can't even call on them to go before Moses and create anything else because they can't even stand before Moses because they're in too much pain. They can't even do it. So two things here, then I got to get to this last thing so we get out of here. When we look at this, third plague, can produce it. Pharaoh, this got to be the hand of God, right? Got to be. It's got to be. Sometimes we see that and we know it is a miracle of God. We know, but we still don't change from our wicked ways. We saw the miracle, took part in the miracle. Matter of fact, we were the miracle. The Lord got us out of it. And we still didn't change from our wicked ways. Mm-hmm. This is just me saying this. The magician had a chance to change sides. They had a chance when they said, "This is the work of God." To go to Moses and say, "Moses, from this day, I want to serve the God that you serve. I want to worship the God that you serve." Because, I hate to say it this way, because if I can't beat him, I probably need to join him. Right? So, but they didn't do that. They didn't do it. They probably went back and hid, and when Pharaoh tried to call them, they said, All they was trying to come up, they probably still in the bite trying to produce nets. Trying to figure out how he did that. All right. But now, guess what? Just because they're not in the eyesight of Moses no more, that doesn't mean God has forgot about what they did. Mhm. Just because you think you got away with it, don't mean you done got away with it. Mhm. Just because you think you done pulled a wool over Jesus' eyes, don't mean you done got away with it. We see now even the magicians are stricken. Even those that were doing wrong, trying to compete against the Lord, is stricken. So watch this. Going back to what we said earlier, when you do what you're supposed to do, when you follow the Lord's instructions, not only is he's going to get the ones that's standing in front of you, he's going to get the ones that tried to hurt you in your past too. He's going to make sure if they hadn't repented, if they hadn't said they were sorry before you and the Lord, or just to the Lord that I messed up, I shouldn't have did, or lied on Sister Sims, I shouldn't have lied on Sister Diane, I shouldn't have stole all of Sister Britt crab legs and oysters. I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have did it, right? Okay, maybe the lie, not the oysters, but not stealing. Well, stealing too. If they had repented before the Lord has said, "Do not touch my anointing." Hmm? Notice He didn't say when I was going to get you back for touching my anointing. He just said, "Do not touch my anointing." So this shows us that if you're doing what the Lord's supposed to do, not only is He's going to defeat the person that's in front of you, He's going to defeat the person that's plotting against you that you don't even know is plotting against you no more. He's going to get the one that you thought you had defeated and got rid of, but they still trying to figure out how to come back against you. He's not, because grace and mercy follow me all the days of my life. So you can't even get toward me. But watch this. After all of this, Pharaoh see the magicians couldn't do nothing. He see all the people couldn't do nothing. And we see right here now, it says, but the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he did not listen to them, as the Lord had spoken to Moses. Do we realize, and this is something I realize, that this is the first instance that we see the Lord harden Pharaoh's heart. When we look at all the other stuff, when it was mentioned about Pharaoh's heart in verse Exodus 7 and 13, it says, still Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he would not listen to them, as the Lord said. Verse 7, chapter 7 and 22. But the magicians of Egypt did the same by their secret arts, so Pharaoh's heart remained hardened. And in verse chapter 8 and 19, the magician said to Pharaoh, this is the finger of God, but Pharaoh's heart was hardened. What is it right here? Verse 8, chapter 8 and 15. But when Pharaoh saw that there was a repast, or they stopped at that stop, he hardened his heart and would not listen to them. And in verse 8 and 32, but Pharaoh hardened his heart this time also. So we've seen 5 plagues. Pharaoh hardened his heart. This one, the Lord hardened his heart. Because the Lord has given enough warnings to where Pharaoh's heart had a chance to even not change his ways, but to start softening his heart. You know how when we used to have to butt up mom and dad or somebody to do something we want, so we don't give it all to them, we kind of soften it to them, especially if we got that bad grade. We try to soften it up to them, so the Lord gave Pharaoh ample amount of time, maybe not to change his mind, but to start thinking about it. Each time, Pharaoh heart was hardened. He hardened his own heart because he didn't want to change. So this time the Lord didn't force Pharaoh's heart to harden. He just stopped giving Pharaoh a chance for grace and mercy. What happens when the Lord doesn't extend grace and mercy no more? What happens when the Lord doesn't extend grace and mercy no more? We see you lose your firstborn. You lose people that's close to you. You get caught at a Red Sea. Remember I said something I was going to bring up at the end? This is just me. I think one of our biggest issues is the Lord has given black folk so many warnings, and we've hardened our hearts. We've hardened our hearts. He showed us that we should love our neighbor as we love ourselves. But we can't get over the house Negro, field Negro mentality. We're still fighting light skin versus dark skin. And not realizing we're on the same team. Not realizing Malcolm X was our martyr, Martin Luther King. Our Moses. Not realizing Martin Luther King was a Moses for us. Not realizing Barack Obama was maybe a Paul or somewhat of a Moses for us. But just like the Egyptians, just like the Hebrews, we fought against everybody that he has tried to bring to deliver us. And because of that, it wasn't God hardening our hearts. We harden it because we're fighting against those that are trying to do everything they can to support us. Trying to do everything they can to uplift us. Can I bring it even further, bring it close to home? We do it in the church all the time. We do it in the church all the time. Somebody brings a program up, we do everything we can to kill that program. We do everything we can. We do everything we can. When we don't get along with certain pastors, we don't get along with the deacons, or we don't get along with the choir, we don't get along with somebody in the church, we form our cliques to do everything we can to get rid of that person. What didn't harden our hearts? Our hearts was already hardened. And what's even more sad, as I get ready to close out, our heart is even more hardened when somebody walks in the door and we've already cast a judgment on them before they even said a mumbling word, because they don't look quite right. But guess what? Isn't that why we had crosses burnt on our front lawns? Because we didn't look like the ones that was burning the crosses? Isn't that why we had hanging trees on the courthouse lawns? Because we didn't look like the ones that was hanging us? Isn't that why we were on the plantations and got whipped? Because we didn't look like the ones that was in the house? I ain't talking about the house nigga, I'm talking about the ones that own the house. Because we didn't look like them. So why do we judge people that look like us the same way they judged us? Why do we do it? Because our hearts are already hardened. Now it's to the point where the Lord said, you know what? I'm giving y'all warnings. I'm not giving you grace. I'm not giving you grace. So now, since I've given you a chance, time after time, I'm just going to allow you to buy into your hatred. I'm going to let you buy into your anger. I'm going to let you buy into the point to where when you do open your eyes, your Red Sea is going to be closing on you and not behind you. When you do open up your eyes, you're going to be staring at your loved one in the grave. And you gonna know. Everybody else thinks it's gonna be because of the sickness. But you gonna know it was because of you. That's when your eyes are gonna open. So my question is to myself, Lord, am I buying into my own hatred? Especially after the incident that happened at work, that conversation. I have to ask myself, Sister McKay, Lord, did I handle that right? Was that a hardening moment? And Lord, just in case it was, Lord, please extend a little more grace and mercy on my behalf. So that's a question I want us to think about tonight. Whether you're here in the sanctuary, conference line, various streaming channels, have incidents that we've been through, has it hardened our hearts to the point where we can't get our heart back into a loving state? Have stuff happen in our lives so bad that our hearts have hardened, and every time somebody comes to try to apologize, we don't accept it. Every time somebody comes to try to befriend us again, we don't allow it. Because our hearts are hardened to the point where the Lord is saying, I can't deal with it no more. I'm not going to deal with it no more. I'm going to allow you to do you. And every time it's an opportunity for you to do the opposite, to start living right, I'm going to harden your heart because I'm going to make you an example of what not to do. I'm going to make you an example of how not to live. So let's just make sure we don't get to that point where he's going to use us as a Pharaoh example. Only we can think about that. So if there's somebody that had, and when you see them, your blood boils, that ain't the Lord blood. That's you. Pray and ask the Lord to throw some ice on that fire. Pray to the Lord to ask him to forgive, not to remove that hatred. Because the last thing we want in this day, in this society, is to be a Pharaoh example. So we thank y'all for joining in with us tonight. It is our prayer that the Lord has opened your hearts to receive what we had, open your minds to accept what we have taught, and is now giving you the ability to take into action what we have learned tonight. Lord's will, we will be with you on Sunday at 8 o'clock service. 8 o'clock service on Sunday for our Sons of Valor on Sunday. We will have the registration for Bible Discovery Hour has come out and it's due on the 31st. So we will start having that. I saw the email today. So we'll get all that information and we'll start registering whoever wants to register for it. But with that being said, anything from the floor? How's your sister doing?
She's home, but my brother had to be sent to Birmingham.
Birmingham, okay. So we'll keep it in our prayer, as well as some others. One of the members at St. James, not St. James, New Bethel, and Quincy, one of their members is in ICU. So we'll keep your brother as well as them in our prayers. With that being said, if there's anything else, have you talked to Sister Oliver?
Well, she's still in the hospital.
She's still in the hospital.
She went back to the hospital.
Yeah.
But when I stopped by yesterday and seen her, and she was doing fine.
Good,
She said she was doing a lot.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, Sister Oliver went back into the hospital, so keep her in your prayers as well. Keep the McChapel community in your prayers, because as we see, it's not only Sister Hall comes to she's a member, So we have members, we have affiliate members, we have people in the community that is sick. And from what I've heard, we've had death in the community, around the Mount Zion, McChapel community. So the death angel is walking up and down the streets.
Amen.
You know, so let us pray, sincere prayer, that it doesn't, for one, come knocking on our door, but also on our neighbors and in the community door. And then after we do that, and we pray that he door. But that's all I have. Everything else, somebody closes out in prayer.
Father in heaven, as we come to a close, Father, we give them thank you, Father, for the years that heard in our heart and felt. Then, Father, I want to special blessing for that you just that we come together in our home, come together in our church, and in the nation just come together and just have mercy upon us. Then, Father, special blessing for the one that is affected by gun violence and just hatred, Father. I pray, Father, that we will just come together in prayer, that we might make a difference in some way or other and just have mercy upon us. Then, Father, let's go with the one that are concerned, Father. Turn around for the day after that and too late, Father. Let them look, Father, you God outside, you now know of. And then, Father, special blessing for the one that's sick, the one that will call out by name, and the one that's sick that we don't know, Father. And just have mercy upon us. And then, Father, go to the one that's nursing home today, Father. Just comfort them as best that we can, Father, that we be able to do and assist them in whatever way we can. And just have mercy upon them, Father. And then, Father, continue to go with this family. Continue to get them the knowledge, wisdom, understanding, here we got God and like the Christian family. And just have mercy upon them. See the blessing in our son, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Good night to everyone once again.